Alright, next we're going to look at how to convert between the two units of power that we have. And the 2 units of power we have are the horsepower. So we have 1 horsepower being equal to 746 watts. Now here's the thing, it's not that one of these is better than the other for measuring power. They're both equally accurate, potentially. There's not that one's better than the other. It's just that there are 2 different systems. Watts are used by pretty much the entire scientific community. Horsepower gets used for less scientific measurements, let's say like measuring the power of cars, things of that nature. So we need to know how to convert between them. Let's say, we'll look at an easy example first. So example 1. Convert 2 horsepower to watts. That is, if I've got 2 horsepower, how many watts is that? Now I hope you're looking at this and going, well, duh, don't we just multiply 746 times 2? And the short answer is yes, but I want you to understand in more depth than that exactly what's happening. So the first thing we're going to do is just write down what number we're given that we want to convert. So 2 horsepower. And then next to that, what we're going to do is we're going to write a fraction. And I'm going to put this fraction in parentheses. So here's a fraction, so that's just the line that separates the top part of the fraction from the bottom part of the fraction. And notice that I've written this on purpose where that 2 horsepower that I started with, remember that's from the problem up here, that 2 horsepower is written like it's with the top part of the fraction. And in fact it is. That 2 horsepower only applies to the top part. And now what we're going to do is we're going to fill this in with the things we want to convert between. Now, I started with horsepower. That was my first unit. Whatever that first unit is that you start with, write that on bottom. So I wrote horsepower and I've left some space to put a number here. And then up top I want to put what it is I want to change to. Well, I want to change this to watts. And now what I do is I want to write numbers in here so that the number of watts is equal to the number of horsepower. Well, if we look up here, I find out that 1 horsepower is equal to 746 watts. So all I've done with this fraction is I'm saying that 746 watts over 1 horsepower. All of that, interestingly enough, if you understand this, great. If not, I can live with it. But interestingly enough, since 746 watts is the same thing as 1 horsepower, if you have something divided by itself, it's equal to 1. So when we multiply 2 horsepower by this fraction is equal to 1, so we're not changing what it is. All we're going to do is change what it looks like. And now, if I've set this up properly, so I started with horsepower, so I put horsepower on bottom, what I want to change to on top, and then the numbers that make them equivalent. All I have to do now is multiply this out, and I will get my answer in watts. So I have to do 2 times 746, so that's 1,492, divided by, I guess I should stop here and tell you exactly what I'm doing. I take all the numbers that are in the top, so the 2 and the 746, and just multiply them all together. If I had more things up here, I would just multiply them all together. So 2 times 746 is 1492. Now I take all the numbers on the bottom and multiply them together, except there's just 1. It's just 1. So I'd multiply across the top, write that answer here, multiply across the bottom, write that answer here, and now I can just divide them, and 1492 divided by 1 is, well, 1492. And now what I can look at is the units. If something is in the top part of a fraction and the bottom part of a fraction, it goes away, it cancels out. Well, I have horsepower on top and on bottom. So those units cancel. And the only unit I'm left with is watts. And so my answer here is that 2 horsepower is 1,492 watts. All right, let's look at this going the other direction now. Example 2, let's convert 2100 watts to horsepower. And so again, I'm going to start with whatever number I'm given. So here I'm given 2100. Now I'm going to write a fraction. I really should have included units there. So 2100 watts. And now in the bottom part of my fraction, I want the same unit as what I started with. So watts go on bottom. Horsepower is what I want to change to. That goes on top. And I know from up here that 1 horsepower is equal to 746 watts. Watts will cancel as a unit, so whatever I'm left with will be in units of horsepower. I take 2,100 times 1 is 2,100. And down here on the bottom, 746, and I don't have anything else to multiply it with, so it's just 746. And now it's a simple division problem, 2100 divided by 746. And I'm going to round off to the hundredths place here, and this would be 2.82 horsepower. And so again, using this process, I can convert whatever I want from watts to horsepower. Now this process probably seems overcomplicated and unnecessary, given how simple this is. However, you can use this technique. Once you're good at setting up a problem like this, you can use this technique to solve all sorts of problems. And so with this, I'm actually less concerned, if you can believe it, about whether or not you can do the conversions as can you set them up properly. So this process right here is really what I'm wanting you to learn, not so much focusing on just can I do this conversion, because there are other simpler ways to do it. However, this technique is simply dead useful. So make sure you know how to do it in this particular way. In fact, I will be so much of a jerk as to not give you credit for it unless you do it in this fashion, because again, that's what I'm focused on. Alright, practice lots of these, and good luck.